Hey there, and welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I'm your host, Sam Hind, and I'm super excited for this episode today. I'm going to be talking about creating your social media strategy. And I'm actually going to break this down over 2 episodes because there are 2 key components to this process. It's really funny, whenever we do this training within our social media mastery program for direct sellers, every time we sit down and we do this, the comment I hear from people is, wow, there's so much more goes into this than what I ever thought of, but I feel so excited for where I'm going to go. In other words, I feel like I'm actually getting somewhere before I've even tried the content. And the reason is because once you really put the thought in, you know that you're no longer wasting your time and, tickling around the edges, so to speak, of your social media and not getting anywhere. I know so many of you feel like you're constantly banging your head against a wall and getting no results. This strategy, hands down, will work every time if you put the effort and the work in. So I'm going to break this down and we're going to start with this episode talking about the pre-work. So I've broken this down into 2 steps. And the pre-work is, for me, one of the really enjoyable processes because again, it really makes you feel like you're getting back in the driver's seat of your business. You're really understanding, and we all know that when we deliver content that our audience wants to see, we are more likely to get seen by more people and get engagement and interaction from them. Just before, though, I go into this process, I do want to make sure that you understand why all of this matters. So we're going to start with just talking about the basics very quickly, and we're going to cover off on the good old algorithm. So let's dive on in and get started. So what's going on behind the scenes? Well, it's very, very important that we understand that whenever we put something on Facebook or Instagram or really any social media platform, that piece of content is being assessed by a program that operates in the background of the platform called the algorithm. The algorithm is deciding exactly who to show what, where, and when. The reason it's doing this is because its intention is, of course, to keep people on that platform for longer and more frequently. So what this basically means is that we need to be delivering content that the platform wants people to see. This comes back to what people actually want to see. Facebook knows that to keep people on its platform, it needs to deliver them content that they're absorbed in, content they're entertained by, content that they're interested in. And so naturally, we need to be playing that game, which means there's 2 things we want to pay attention to. Number 1, what is the algorithm looking for? And there are some things that will favor, so you can absolutely steer towards those things a little. But the other thing is knowing what does the audience want to see, meaning what does my dream customer actually care about? So before we get to that, because that's kind of step 2, I want to start with a step 1, which is even more important than that. And that is, what are your business goals? What do you care about? Where do you want to go? We've got to look at this because if we just randomly show up on social media and throw content out there and it's not steering towards anything, what are we doing? A goal without a plan is just a dream. And I want you to achieve the things in your business that you've set out to achieve. But this comes with being intentional. Where are you guiding people? What journey do you want to take them on? Where do you want that journey to end? So think to yourself, what is your goal? When we work with our RiseUp Inner Circle members, this is a small group of direct sellers that I mentor twice a week, every week. Some incredible individuals in there. It's an amazing program where I work with people who have got what we call a big, hairy, audacious goal. And we talk about that every session because our intention in that membership is to drive them further and closer towards that goal. So we're always looking for what's the lowest hanging fruit? What's the one key activity I can be doing in my business right now that's going to drive me closer to that faster? So I would ask you that same question. Do you have a big, hairy, audacious goal? This is a goal that's big, a goal that, is think outside the square here, something you would really dream to achieve. And then what's the plan to get there? Now, we're not going to cover off on that today. That's a whole nother episode and conversation. But what I do want you to be intentional about is, Why am I doing social media? What's my goal in my business? What do I want to achieve? Do you want to achieve a certain sales target? Are you wanting to achieve a certain recruitment target? Are you wanting to grow your team? Are you wanting to achieve an incentive trip or a promotion in the business? Think about what that is and then think backwards. What do I need to do in order to achieve that? And therefore, what do I need to be doing on social media in order to achieve that as well? So you can see where this all comes back to some really basic principles that I think we often overlook. I mean, think about it. In your social media strategy, up until this point that you're listening to this episode, how much of it has just been randomly throwing things out there on social media? How much of it has been kind of being reactive rather than proactive? Maybe just putting posts out when you remember, or posts that you think might be of interest, or posts that are really about your product when you're desperate for a sale. Hey, it's end of month or there's a promotion on. I better tell everyone about it. But if we're being reactive rather than proactive, we're not going to be doing the pre-work. And you would have heard me talking about the importance of dating your customer. What this means is we've got to earn the right to sell to them. So what we're going to be talking about is how to make majority of your content interesting, engaging, informative, and entertaining to your target market before we even think about doing a sales post. You would have heard the 80-20 rule, I'm sure, along the lines. And the 80-20 rule is that 80% of all of your content needs to be about them, about what's valuable to them, what they care about. And when you get that right, then you earn the right to do 20% of self-promotion. But I'm going to blow that one out of the water and say, I don't believe 80-20 is the right ratio. In fact, majority of the successful people in the industry that I've worked with do more like 99-1, if not 100% valuable content that engages, interests, and entertains their audience. Because when you do that well, it starts a conversation, which starts a relationship, which earns you the right to have that conversation one-to-one, which really is what this industry is all about. Relationship. Belly to belly, face to face, one-to-one, whatever that needs to be. And that doesn't mean it has to be in person. You can still do this online. But having that conversation person to person is so much more powerful than giving the farm away and selling directly through your page. It's a misconception that selling directly on your page, whether it's personal profile, business page, or group, is going to get you more sales because you're making it easier to access. No, people don't want easy to access. They want connection. They want relationship. And remember this one core thing here. Your audience are buying you. They're not buying the product. They're not buying the business. They're buying you. And they care about what you care about. So when you share your journey, story, entertain, interest, create curiosity and intrigue, you are so much more likely to get the sale than if you make it super easy for them to buy from you, because that's assuming that that's what they want in the first place. And 99% of the time, that's not what they're buying or looking for. So step 1 was get clear about your goals. Step 2 is probably the most important part of this process, and definitely the one that I think most people overlook, don't do, because it does take a little bit of time, but you can have a lot of fun with this. This is get to know who your dream customers are and what interests them. This is the research component. Do you know, how are you ever going to know what to deliver them if you don't know what they care about? So we first need to stop and think to ourselves, what do they care about? Get interested in them. If you were dating somebody and you were potentially looking at one day down the track marrying them, you would research, you would get to know them, you would pay attention. Number one, because you want to know if they're the right person for you, and that will go for your business as well. Not everyone is your ideal customer, but also because you want to know how you can be there for them. I needed to get to know Greg when I first met him so that when we had a conversation, I could talk about the things that we both cared about or that he cared about. Because let's face it, if I sat there and spoke to him about cooking all day long, if I really knew Greg, I would know that that would not be a conversation that would be entertaining or interesting to him, just to me. And he'd tune out pretty quick. But if I knew Greg, I would know that talking about family things and activities and boats, probably not my area of interest, but hey, if I know these things about him, we can have those conversations. So research is really, really important. You do it without even realizing it with your loved ones. You do it with your friends. You do it with people that you meet and connect with for the first time. What do you do when you meet someone for the first time? You ask them questions, you get to know them. What do you do for a living? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? Have you got a holiday plan this year? Where are you off to? You talk to people and get to know them. So why don't we do this with our customers? Because I really think that we skip that step because it's just a little bit too hard basket, because it's not always as direct as it might be in a conversation with a friend or a family member. So I'm going to talk to you about some ways that you can do this right now to help speed this process up. But I will say, allocating time to this is very important. So find some time, maybe once a week, once a fortnight, even once a month. It doesn't have to be massively often, but what you want to do is get into the habit of always being curious. So allocate some time on a semi-regular basis to do a little bit of research. And I will just say, hot tip here, time yourself, because social media is a distracting rabbit warren. And if you don't time yourself, you may find yourself getting a little caught up doing things like watching reels or watching short form video on YouTube, that sort of thing. So we don't want to do that. But what we do want to do is spend some quality time researching every so often. Now, for me, this has become a daily habit because every time I see a comment, every time someone messages, I'm looking at those comments and those messages and I'm processing what are some of the common themes here? What are the common conversations, common questions? What do I notice about these people? What's their age group and demographic? Really start to get curious. In the early days, I used to keep notebooks and really note these things down because I wanted to take all of this information, piece it together and see, what were those common denominators? If I noticed something a little bit interesting, I wouldn't assume it was a one-off. I would note it down. And then when, at the end of the month, I might look back and see, have there been any more interesting scenarios like that? And I do see patterns in our business with the audience that we work with. Don't assume everyone is exactly like you. Most of the time, they're not. Most of the time, your dream customer is either somebody who is currently going through something you've been through, or it's somebody who you resonate and connect with because you have a common interest. So don't assume it's you now. You now has already solved the problem or found the business or found the product that they're yet to find. So just keep in mind there are going to be some differences and you will need to pay attention. Using a husband or wife for an example here, if you're going through the dating process, Greg and I have differences, but we also have similarities. And knowing what those similarities and differences are is key to having a good quality relationship and a good quality conversation. I know that when we go on a date or, when we've got a little bit of quality time by ourselves, there are certain things we'll talk about and do and other things we won't. And that's just simply because there are areas that coincide, that cross over, and areas that don't. It doesn't mean you need to be constantly putting content out there that doesn't interest you. It means you need to find that middle ground. What is the expertise that you have? What is the knowledge that you have? What is the information that you have that can be of value to that person? There are certainly conversations I can have with Greg around cooking that are of interest to him. So there are some ways that we can come together on that. He would be very interested in cooking hacks or cheats and tips and tricks because for him, cooking is a necessity, not something you enjoy, but he certainly loves to enjoy the food at the end of it, but he doesn't love the process. So if I can talk to him about ways he can speed it up and make it easier, he's kind of keen on that. So it's getting to know what are the areas of crossover. So where can you provide expertise and value and knowledge to your audience? So when it comes to getting to know your dream customer, there are a couple of things to remember here. The first is that not everyone is your ideal customer. When you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. Your ideal customer is your perfect person. It's the person that you click with. It's the person who values you. It's the person who needs what you have, who you can serve. Your dream customer is going to be somebody who you don't have to work really, really hard for. It's not going to be the person who's always the squeaky wheel. When I first started my business, I made this big mistake, which was to serve everyone and anybody who was willing to pay me. Back when I started, I was a consultant. I ran social media for anyone who would pay me. And I realized after a few years of intense, painful business, that the people I was spending all of my time trying to please were the very ones that I was pleasing least. Why? Because they were the squeaky wheels. I was spending less time with the people I loved that I just connected with because I did a really great job for them. They loved what I did and they didn't need to squeak. And so what happened was I was spending 90% of my time trying to please a group of people that were never my people to please in the first place, and 10% of my time working with the people that were put on this planet for me to serve. And if I really thought about it, if I had put 100% of my time in that audience, I would have had many more of those people and I would have enjoyed my work so much more. You could probably think of someone now, perhaps, who you have had as a customer, or maybe someone in your team that really, if you had a choice and it wasn't about money or business, you probably wouldn't have chosen to work with them. And I would challenge you and ask the question, should you be working with them in the first place? Should you take the risk and simply say no to that person so that you make more room for the people who you are put on this earth to serve, the people who you can provide value to, the people who are going to help you enjoy what you do, because I really truly believe that you deserve that, but also the people who are going to shout about you from the rooftops. The thing is that word of mouth marketing is the most powerful marketing that you could possibly ever get. And you're not going to get it from people who are not your ideal customer. So the first thing is identify who these people are and unashamedly please those people. If you pay attention to any of the top leaders in the company that you belong to or in the industry in general, you'll notice something very interesting about all of them. And it's this: they know who they're here to serve and they unashamedly serve those people to the point where they will alienate another group of people in order to make sure that they're looking after that one. You'll notice that they have got lovers and haters, and they are okay with that. And this is because they know that if they try to please everyone, they'll please no one. So they go for the group of people that they know are going to help them grow their business and that they're going to be able to look after well. You'll see it with any leader. You'll notice there's like almost a click, and they get that. That's really okay. But you've got to have the courage and the confidence to do that. For me, it took some amazing people in my world to really encourage me to do that. And I tell you what, it was the best decision I ever made. I went through a process for me, and I'm not suggesting you need to do this, but I went through a process of firing 80% of my customers over a 12-month period. And man, oh man, was it a painful process. Every single one of them I pushed against. And I had my coach, I had my amazing husband who was in the business with me at the time. He'd just entered in and partnered with me to help us take the business to where we wanted it to go. And they were cheering me on from the sidelines, but man, was it a difficult process. But I can tell you something. From the moment that I fired that very last client, I found myself working in a business I enjoyed every single day, working with clients that brought me joy, who also were shouting about us from the rooftops, that loved what we did because we finally identified who those people were and unashamedly served them. Guess who they are? You, direct sellers. We identified that our ideal customer were people who were trying to grow their direct selling business. That's someone in party plan or network marketing. And I'm constantly asked by people, why do you only work in this industry? That's crazy. You teach social media. You could help all sorts of businesses all around the globe. Why are you only working in this industry? And with a great big smile on my face, I'll always tell them, because these are my dream customers. I love working with them. They love working with me, and it brings me so much joy. I know I can serve them, and I never have to ask myself what to do next because I know exactly who I'm here to serve, who I'm here to work with, and I know what my messaging is. And this is what brings me to the point. The messaging to you is very different to the messaging I might have for, say, a real estate agent or a restaurant or a retailer that might want my help. So the fact that I'm really clear that you're the person I'm working with, I can deliver you messages that you feel like are for you and you alone. And they are, because I know you. I got to know you clearly. And every single day, I'm getting to know you better and better. And I do it through these methods. First of all, I listen and pay attention to what you say on social media, not just on my page. I get to know you through watching your profiles. Those of you that I'm friends with, I'll look at what you get up to. I'll see where you go on holiday. Not in a stalky kind of way, just in a you're my friend and I really value you kind of way. I'll pay attention to the group conversations of groups where I know that my ideal customer are hanging out. I join some groups where my dream customers are, not necessarily because I want to get them from there. And I'm very careful I don't do that. So I don't join a group in order to harvest it, but I join a group to learn. I look at the common questions that come up, the common conversations that are had, the things that people are interested in. So these are all things that you should be doing in your research time. And once you get into the habit, you can be doing this on a regular basis. So get out of your page, get onto their profiles. If you're not friends with them all, that's okay. Even just those few that you are friends with, pay attention. You may not have a lot of these people as your customers yet. So you might be sitting here going, well, Sam, that's good and well if you've already got some of those customers. What if I don't know who they are? Well, start off with what you do know. Your ideal customer for you right now might simply be someone who was at the beginning of the journey that you're currently on. So join a couple of groups where people have share common interest to you. For example, you may be in a business that sells products that help lose weight or be healthy. So, if you know that the journey that you were on, that you are well and truly on now, but you want to find some more people that are at the beginning of the same journey as you, think about where you were then and maybe find some Facebook groups where like minded individuals might be hanging out. Pay attention. Maybe you can identify another consultant or distributor in your company or even a different company, even in a different country. It doesn't even have to be local to you. And look at what they do and what sort of interaction they have with their customers. If you identify they've got a similar customer to you, but their business is further along, pay attention. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Definitely don't copy, and you don't want to cross any lines, but pay attention. Look at what they're doing. Look at the conversations they have. Look at the sort of content they put out there and how their customers are interacting with them. Maybe it's your leader. You could look at what they do on social media and pay attention. Just remember that your audience may be different to theirs, though. So you've got to be really clear who's my audience, who's their audience. And by the way, you may not get this right to start with. That's why research matters so much. Research isn't about finding out what's right. It's about discerning what could be right for you and discerning what's definitely not. So, looking at other pages, looking at groups, all of these are important. You also want to pay attention to their interaction on your page. As you start putting content out there, make sure that you're looking at what they're saying. By the way, if you have a customer right now that really you feel would fall in the category of being your dream customer, why not take them out for a coffee or have a fun phone conversation with them and ask them if they wouldn't mind if you interviewed them and asked them some questions to help you as you grow your business? Most people, if you tell them how much you value them and the fact that they could really assist you in growing your business further, most people are going to want to help you with that. So perhaps sit down and ask them the questions and do something to say thank you, like buy them a coffee or lunch or something thereabouts. But ask them the questions, get to know them. What are they interested in? What do they care about? So talking to people, I wrote that in really big, bold letters in my notes here. Talk to them. I think that's the thing we miss so often when we're doing social media. It's so disconnected, and yet really the magic here is when we learn to reconnect. Social media is about putting the social back in. We forget that part on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it is that you're doing. But I really want to remind you of the importance of interaction. So talk to people, pick the phone up, have actual conversations. You'll learn so much more in a much shorter period of time. And then as you go through these processes of research, start to list some topics of interest. This is what's going to help you with part 2 of your social media strategy. So list topics of interest, pain points, things that they enjoy. And remember the 2 golden questions, and I'll finish up this episode on this. The 2 golden questions are the 2 most powerful questions you could constantly be asking yourself about your dream customer. And by the way, if you do this right, you will always be asking these questions because you're always changing, the industry is always changing, and certainly your dream customer is also always changing. So we want to always be asking these questions, but they are this. If you've done any courses or training with me, you know what I'm about to say, and that is, number 1, what keeps them up at night? That means what problems in life do they want to solve? What bothers them? What frustrates them? What brings them stress and anxiety at the moment? So what problems do they want to solve? What keeps them up at night? That's question number 1. Always be jotting things down about that one. And the next one is this: what gets them up in the morning? That means what do they enjoy? What brings them joy? What gets their blood pumping and, sets their heart on fire? What do they value? What are they interested in? What conversations do they want to have? What's important to them? So what keeps them up at night? What gets them up in the morning? Always be curious about those two questions. Now that we've done a bit of the pre-work and you've sat down and you've done some of that research and you've started to take some notes, and know this, you do not have to complete this process to start the next one. You just have to start this process. This will be a process you will do forevermore as you grow your business. So we just want to get in the habit of always doing it. Always be researching, always be curious, always be really clear. Where are we going with our business? So that was step 1. What's your business goal? And step 2 was identify and date, get to know, research your dream customer. What are their interests? What are their pain points? What do they care about? What do they want to do in life? All of those things matter. So that brings me to the end of part 1 of building your social media strategy. This is something, like I said, you can do on a semi-regular basis, even just for a few minutes. I'm going to be doing part 2 of this where we're actually going to talk about building that strategy, the planning process, the doing. Now, I just want to remind you, a lot of people jump straight to that. So please don't be tempted to do that before you've stopped and considered these 2 steps that we've been through in this episode today. That's it from me today. I look forward to seeing you in part 2, but sending you loads of love from Team Oksano. Thank you for tuning into our podcast again. And don't forget, if you found this episode valuable, please make sure not only to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes, but also please share this. We would love to be sharing our mission and our vision to help as many direct sellers grow their business globally as we can. Oksano, which is our business name, means to cause to grow and become greater. It's our mission. It's what we want to do, and we'd love for you to help us with that. So if you love this episode, you think it would be valuable to one of your team members, a friend in the industry, please send it to them. Let's help them grow their business too. And I look forward to tuning in with you and spending some time with you for our next episode. That's it from me. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.